Welcome to the GateDrop podcast. GateDrop.com, giving you the jump in motocross news.
Hello everyone and welcome to yet another GateDrop podcast. This time we're going to look at the EMX250 and the EMX125 series. We'll have our resident expert, Andy McKinstry, with us again. Andy, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. Looking forward to talking about some of the young guns in the GP paddock breaking through at the moment. Very good racing at Matterley Basin on the Saturday, which helped build up for the Sunday. And it was frantic stuff at times in both the EMX categories.
It was indeed, yeah. I don't think, especially these two EMX classes, that the racing's always pretty good. I think it's mostly because of the depth. There's depth and quality throughout the whole 40 riders, and you have to qualify just to get into it, and that can be tough for people as well, especially when they're coming to their first EMX event and they're maybe not okay or familiar with everything that's going on the big GP style tracks and the jumps. It's definitely a big thing for a young kid to come into. He hasn't, especially a British guy maybe, he hasn't been made aware of all this stuff. He hasn't raced a lot in Europe, and to just come there and see the track, a track that of course the British riders don't get to ride during the season, so there isn't really much of an advantage. It really is a GP track with the big jumps, and it's a bit of an eye-opener for some riders, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely, especially more so the EMX125 class, because a lot of those kids, and especially the rookies, are coming in and they've only really raced in their home country and they haven't got the experience a lot of the EMX250 riders would have. So it's certainly an eye-opener for them, but it'll only make them a better rider as they continue to race this championship and all the different types of tracks that the calendar has to offer. It'll only make them stronger for the long run.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're talking about one of the fathers of one of the young EMX125 British riders, and they were pretty excited the day before, and couldn't get over the size of the track, the size of the jumps, and that whip section as well. So it's definitely a great experience for kids whenever it's their first chance to see a track, and also to see the level of competition. In EMX250, the level of competition is pretty unbelievable this year. But the guy who's setting the bar is Nicholas Lapucci on the 250 Fantic. The noise of that bike itself is brilliant, but also the way Lapucci rides it. He's all action, but he carries a lot of flow and style. He's whipping over the jumps, but his race speed is pretty phenomenal. He doesn't look on edge either. He looks like he has everything under control. And it was actually just really enjoyable to see him ride, and just how well he was riding a 250 two-stroke. It's been a while since I've seen a 250 two-stroke on that level and sort of ridden by a very high quality rider on a big stage like that, especially in the EMX 250 class where you have a lot of young riders coming through on good 250 four-stroke equipment. So for Nicholas Lapucci, and I guess older people like myself, as it was a wee bit of a throwback just to see that 252 stroke been ridden at a really, really high level again.
Yeah, exactly that. Lapucci's a very, very stylish rider, isn't he? And he hasn't actually raced a two-stroke since 2012 or 2013, I believe. So he's been on a four-stroke ever since then. So he probably needed a wee bit of adapting to get used to the two-stroke, but you can tell the bike's very good and it's very fast out of the gate as well. He's nailing those starts. Nailing the starts obviously makes things easier, especially in that class, because I feel like this year 5th to 20th is a very similar speed. So it's very important to get out of that gate for the championship this year, but sometimes that can bring pressure. But he was totally at ease with the situation. He was very free in the bike and had everything under control. So very, very impressive. He's going to be a hard man to beat as this season continues, because in the past, the sand might have been his weak link, but at the International Italian Championship, he was very fast in the sand. So I expect him to maintain this level. And also he's got a lot more experience than some of his competition. So that'll help him in the long run as well. He's going to age out of EMX 250 and MX2 next year, and he confirmed to me after the race they're already in talks to race MXGP with his Matty Fantic 252 stroke for next year. So that would be very exciting to see that in the MXGP class, and he's the sort of rider that can get competitive results as well.
Yeah, it's a wee bit of a shame he isn't allowed to ride the 250 Fantic in the MX2 class. I think that would have been pretty exciting. But also, there's a wee bit of, I guess, ructions in the paddock about the power of that 252 stroke in the EMX 250 division, which is mostly ridden by 250 four strokes. Kevin Horgmo mentioned the power that Lapucci has, and I think getting off the starts is a big advantage for him. But then Lapucci mentioned on the hard pack that the 250 two stroke maybe isn't the best on a slick surface. So there's already a wee bit of whose bike is giving who an advantage, which I think is quite interesting. Only one round in.
Yeah, exactly that. I can sort of see both sides of it, but it's definitely very powerful out of the gate. And also the Matty guys that run that team, they're very intelligent. They probably would have planned this and they knew that was a gap in the market, so to speak, to put a rider on a 252 stroke. And with signing Lapucci, he's already a championship contender on a 254 stroke with the experience he's gathered this last few years. So on the powerful bike and getting out of the gate, they definitely knew what they were at with signing him. So it's going to be tough to stop. But yeah, like you said, it's a shame that he can't do MX2, although he ages out next year anyway. So we would have probably only seen him do a few wildcards this year if it was possible. But it's still going to be cool if to see him ride the bike in MXGP if that does materialise.
Yeah, and as I say, he's setting the pace. But Kevin Horgmo looks like the guy who has the talent and ability to match Lapucci, or at least push him. He had a good first moto. He had a pretty good battle with Håkan Fredriksson that went on for most of the race. But the second moto, he made quick work of Fredriksson, and that was him. He was setting his sights on Lapucci, and he was able to keep Lapucci honest for basically the whole moto. This was Kevin Horgmo. This was the pace I think everyone had seen in MX2. He's dropped to MX250 this year, but it was nice to see him run that pace the whole moto. He never looked on edge, really, and he was chasing a guy who was riding very, very fast. So for Kevin Horgmo, I think this was a very good opening round, and it's probably opened a few eyes as to the pace he can run in MX2. Now, I believe he will be riding some MX2 GPs this season, so it's probably worked out quite well for Kevin because he's still able to dip his toe into MX2 and show what he has, but also he's the chance of winning a pretty prestigious, and a title that's grown in prestige as well, in EMX250. And he has a pretty fast guy and a fast rival with Lapucci, so that will add to how worthwhile this title will be to win if he can indeed win it.
Yeah, the one thing about Horgmo was his starts weren't good at all at Matterley Basin, and he was able to come through a stacked field of talent to 3-2. There's probably only a couple of riders in that class that would be capable of doing that. Lapucci being the other, Horgmo and Fredriksson when he's 100% fully fit are probably the three. So I was impressed to see Horgmo coming up through the field, but he could certainly make life easier for himself if he gets out of that gate. I think if he's with Lapucci right from the start, it could go close. It certainly should be a good battle because he has got the pace, and it's just the case that he's now got a bike that he's comfortable with, a good team behind him, and it's no surprise for me to see him running at the front. I was a bit disappointed. A good MX2 team never gave him a good opportunity at the end of last year, but at the same time, I'm glad he never signed for an MX2 team which wouldn't offer him a great bike, because it means he has to overpush and ride the wheels off the bike to compete, whereas now at least he's able to ride at his level and not over the limit, which is important because that's led to crashes for him in the past. So I feel like this is the perfect opportunity for him, and I would be very, very surprised if the team don't keep him and promote him into MX2 for 2022. And he's riding MX2 in Italy this weekend, so that'll be interesting. I think he has the speed for top 10 if he rides like he did at Matterley. I don't see why not.
Yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for him because he'll be carrying the confidence of his European speed last weekend at Matterley Basin, and now been able to show what he can do, hopefully in MX2. So for this season and next season, he's actually ended up in quite a good position, really, I think, for what wasn't looking a great position in the winter of 2020.
Yeah, exactly that, and it's nice to see him have a good team behind him. It was looking dodgy for a while, but the SMX and Gas team, I believe they're chasing this EMX 250 title, so they held out and waited for Horgmo, and when Horgmo couldn't secure a good MX2 ride, it fell into place then. So it's a good fit for both the rider and the team, I feel, and they could have a bright future there together.
Third overall was Cornelius Tondell. I'm not sure if I've said that right, but I think he was very, very good. He definitely surpassed my expectations of him in a class that's very strong. He rode great both motos, and it was pretty much an ideal. Perhaps he maybe even surprised himself, but third overall, a great platform for the season.
Funny, I was speaking to him after the first moto, and I asked him, was he surprised? And he actually didn't seem that surprised. He just says he's felt very good on the bike at the moment. I had him down for 5th to 10th.
Yeah, I was about to say him.
I feel like riding the 450 last year, I feel like that sometimes when riders jump back in the 250 after that, it makes them a better 250 rider. And I feel like that's what's going to happen with Tondell. But to go 2.5 and not have a rear brake for the last 20 minutes of the first moto is very, very impressive to start the season with a podium. So for him, it's just about maintaining this. I think he would have opened some eyes this weekend, and long may it continue. He's very stylish on the 250 and is great to watch. So look out for him as the season develops.
And I think as well, the second moto, 5th, proves that his first moto wasn't no fluke. It wasn't like just he got a good start and hung in there. You know, to back it up with 2 motos, including his rear brake issue, as you were saying, it shows he's definitely has the potential to be there all year.
Exactly, and also in a class that where a lot of riders run the same pace as well. It's going to be hard to be consistent. So if he can keep that consistency up, there's no reason why he can't be up there in the championship. And that was hard pack. He's also good in sand, so he's an all rounder, I believe. So he shouldn't hit any tracks where he completely struggles as long as he can still get reliable starts. He certainly has the pace to run at the front. Very, very impressive. I would say he was probably my rider of the day in the EMX 250 class. Just about over Emil Wackman. But those two were the standouts for me and the biggest surprises.
I was going to say, regarding surprises, I think Emil Wackman has to be up there. Of course, the former EMX150 champ, but he's had a tough couple of years and he's back this year, but I'm not sure anyone really, maybe he did, but I'm not sure anyone sort of watching on was really expecting him to be this good this early in the EMX 250 class. He rode really, really well, especially that second moto, 3rd place. And he looked good doing it. There was no on edge or scary moments really that you could see. Very, very, very strong performance, and it has to be said, maybe a surprising performance from Emil Wackman, but he looks back and we'll see what he can do the rest of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. The reason why it's surprising is because of the amount of injuries he's had to deal with. Since moving up to the 250, he's just been constantly injured, it feels like. So he couldn't really catch a break, but signing with the Acer Motor team, who have maybe took a bit of a gamble with all the injuries the young Finn has had to deal with, but they took the gamble, and after that first round, it looks to have paid off. He's also working with Yves Demarais, and it looks like he's setting him through his paces, and looks like a match made in heaven there. I was thinking if he got a good top 10 solid overall, it would be a great start to the season. So to go 7th, 3, and 4th overall is unbelievable, really, and you'll want to keep the ball rolling going into the rest of the rounds now. And why not? He looked very, very comfortable running at the front as well, which impressed me.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he can keep this up, or if it was just a sort of enthusiasm and that excitement to be back, and then you go fast, and then that keeps the ball rolling all the more at Matterley Basin. So it'll be interesting if he can keep this performance up. Hopefully he can, and I really hope he can go injury free this year and get this momentum behind him and get a platform to try and serve him well for the next couple of years of his career as he tries to get into MX2. Hakon Fredriksson was 5th overall. It was a solid day for him. Perhaps expected maybe a wee bit more raw speed from him, but first round, 5th overall, not too bad. He had a pretty good fight with Kevin Horgmo. that was entertaining now to watch that. They were back and forward. Horgan just couldn't get around him for a good while in that first moto. But Fredrickson, maybe not quite the raw pace he would have wanted. He'd want to be on that Lapucci Horgmo level straight from the gate whenever those two get away 1-2 at races. So a wee bit of work to do, but a good solid start for the Bud Kawasaki rider.
If I'm to be completely honest, he actually impressed me this weekend because 3 months ago he broke both of his wrists, so he had to go back to Norway to recover. And I believe he's only had a month back on the bike, and the first few weeks were, just taking it pretty easy to get back into the swing of things. And also in the first moto, he got a 5 place penalty for failing a noise test, so he would have been pushing for the podium without that. So to finish fifth overall, he actually impressed me, and he'll only continue to get better. He wasn't the head hack on Fredrickson of last year in terms of corner speed, but I think that'll come, and he was still very, very solid. What I would say is for 3 Norwegians to be in the top 5 of the EMX250 overall opening round is very, very impressive. What a motocross the nations team they might have in the future if they all develop the way we expect them to. Very, very exciting.
This year, those guys are fast. Kevin's has showed MX2 speed to get him in the top 10. Fredrickson, as you say, this isn't him at his best, and he's already top 5, kind of top 3 speed, so he'll get faster. So I would say he's not far off a top 10 MX2 speed anyway. So they could actually be pretty good this year, never mind in 2 or 3 years once all these guys mature. And also Emil Wickman's from Finland, so the Scandinavians are really coming back. We have Isaac Gifton, Swedish, in MX2 as well. The Swedes have produced a few good riders recently, so everyone in Scandinavia seems to be coming on strong. Denmark as well. You've Thomas Kjær Olsen, of course. So that part of Europe seems to be rejuvenated, and as you say, Norway are just coming through with top rider after top rider at the minute.
Exactly that, and Fredrickson actually ran with Zach Osborne at Aston Motocross the Nations, so on the 450. So and he's got the build of a 450. Tundell obviously rode a 450 last year, and whilst he's dropped back to 250, that he's got that experience now. So whenever he does make the move to the 450, he knows how to ride one. He's got the experience. And Horgmo, we all know he has the talent to be a rider in the future. So very, very exciting for them. For such a small country too, I think the population is just over 5 million. So very, very impressive. And I think riders from Scandinavian countries, when they do make the jump to GPs, they always maybe need a year or 2 extra to fully adapt. It can't be easy for them because the level in their own national championships wouldn't be the highest. So it's probably an eye-opener when they first come over, but it's all about learning as much as you can from the best young talents in the world, adapting to the different types of tracks. And then if you're talented, then why not? So yeah, Norway, watch out for them in the next few years to motocross the nations. It could be knocking on the door.
And the thing as well, for people from Norway, Finland, Denmark, they're having to leave their country, and really, if you want to make it, you have to be living in Belgium, Holland, or wherever. Some of the other guys don't have to do that as much, or at least they can travel back and forward a bit easier. So it is a big commitment for these guys. They're fully involved. They're fully committing their lives to the sport. And while they maybe need a year or 2 extra to adapt, their mentality and their determination to make it increases because they have sacrificed so much of their own life at home.
Exactly that. They might not have their parents with them, and that can be tough to deal with at a young age. That's one thing. And then, yeah, if results don't go well, you can get stuck in a rut very quickly with missing family and friends at home. So it's important just to keep working hard, and good things will come if you have got the talent. Like I say, one thing I would say is about the Norwegians and Scandinavians, they're all very friendly and they all just seem to get on with it. So they do seem to have the right mentality that it takes, and it's nice to see that some of them breaking through, because for a few years there it wasn't looking too rosy for them. But certainly, I don't know what they're doing over the last couple of years, but it's certainly paying off.
Yeah, I was talking to Brian Jorgensen, and whenever he came over, he was riding the British Championship for Rob Hooper. It was just him and his mechanic living in a house or a room, and that's the sort of situation that riders, especially from countries that are a bit further away than Belgium and Holland, they're having to do. They're having to just leave home and leave everything that's comfortable around them, live in a foreign country, learn that language, or at least learn it halfway so that they can get by, and just focus on racing. They're there to race, and they're there to get results, and there's not always a lot of other things that they can enjoy or sort of release that's familiar to them. So I think for these riders, you have to take your hat off to them. Now, Kevin Horgman and Håkon Fredriksson have seemed to have a bit of a rivalry going. They were going back and forward on social media there the other day. So as well as after they had that battle on Saturday, so those two could be two to keep an eye on if they get together again and start fighting it out. Fredriksson, not always known for his starts, but once gets these extra few percent under his belt with the riding time and starts getting these starts and the raw sprint speed at the start of the race, there could be some good battles going forward again.
Yeah, exactly that. Kevin had said about Håkon Fredriksson getting bad starts last year. I wouldn't say he was wrong, because I lost count of how many times Håkon had to come outside the top 20 last year to get the good results. But at Matterley, he definitely got better starts, Fredriksson. So if he can keep getting starts like that on the Kawasaki, he'll certainly be knocking on the door, and he'll be able to position himself a lot better from the start of motos, which will only benefit him. But yeah, it's always good to see a bit of a rivalry. It makes things a bit more interesting out in track. So it'll be exciting. But those two can definitely challenge for this championship, no doubt about it.
And Iago, not familiar with these Spanish names. Iago Martinez, 6th overall. He rode really, really well. Strong in both motos. What were your thoughts on him?
Yeah, Iago Martinez really impressed me, actually, because he had been riding an Aussie Yamaha in the Spanish Championship, and then he signed a deal with the French team, FRT KTM, and it was only official the Monday before Matterley Basin. And I think he had only had 4 times on the KTM, which he admitted feels a lot different than the Yamaha. He's improved a lot, actually, since the last time I've saw him ride. I thought maybe, and he even thought himself, 2 top 15s would have been a good starting point. So to battle at the front and go 5'8", very, very impressive. He impressed me a lot, actually, and he's very aggressive. He's a good watch, actually, around the track. One other thing I would say is, a lot of people used to put the EMX150 championship down and think it wasn't the best class, but out of the top 6 overall from the weekend, 3 of them are actually graduates from the EMX150 championship. So it goes to show that some good talents were actually in that championship, and it helped nurture them for the future. So yeah, very impressed by Martinez, and we'll see if he can maintain this kind of riding. I think sand might be a bit of an issue for him. I'm not convinced about his sand riding, so it'll be interesting to see if he can prove me wrong in the rough stuff.
Yeah, talking about the EMX 150, the first time I saw Rick Elzinga was at Lommel on the EMX 150 Honda, and he obliterated everyone. He had a decent day going after the first moto, Rick, but I don't think he was feeling as 100%. He wasn't that happy with his performance. I think he did 10th, around 10th there, the first one. But again, hard pack. He obviously prefers the sand, but he was fast, but I think energy was lacking, and his results didn't equate to what his expectations were going in. But as you say, another guy who has speed, he has talent, and also competed in the EMX 150 class.
Yeah, he actually impressed me in the first moto, because he was 25th in the first lap. Like Arnhem in the pre-season race, his starts were very, very poor, and he had to come from outside the top 25, and I think he got up to 10th or 11th, if I'm not mistaken. So I thought that was a good recovery ride, because there's a lot of guys going a fast pace, but they're all the same pace. So for him to pass all those guys is good. And I think in the second moto, he might have had a DNF. I'm not sure what happened to him in the second moto, but I feel like his pace is good. And if he can buy a start for himself and position himself a bit better, he's good enough to go with those guys at the front. And like you said, he'll be very strong in the sand, I feel. But with him, it's important to stay fit as well. Sort of like Wackman, since getting in the 250s, injuries meant we haven't seen his full potential just yet. But who knows, this year could be the year he puts it all together on the TBS Conversions KTM.
Yeah, he'll be born to keep an eye on going forward in this championship. I don't think he was able to show his full potential there. And as you said, we both thought he rode really well at the first moto. Andrea Bonacorsi, EMX125 champ, coming in the EMX250 this year. I thought he was good. There was no massive flashes of big speed, but again, he was kind of battling in the pack, and that isn't easy in this class. He was riding well. He was fighting hard. He never really had an easy moto. He's always battling somebody. But seventh overall, a solid, possibly slightly unspectacular start, but I think he hopefully be happy enough with that and can progress from here on out.
Yeah, you said the word there, solid. That's exactly the word I would use for his EMX 250 debut. Nothing spectacular, but he also could have done a lot worse. Yeah, I know he's EMX 125 champion, but sometimes the expectations on the rookies can be a bit too high. And then because of that, they put too much pressure on themselves and then they underperform. So to go seventh overall, 10th and 6th, a good start to the season and something to build on. He will certainly improve as the season progresses. So I've no worries as far as I'm concerned. Just he got the job done as far as I'm concerned and came out unscathed. So you can look forward now to building on that. And the next step, I suppose, would be a top 5 overall.
And Liam Everts looked like at one stage he was possibly going to be challenging for that top 5. He was riding well in the first moto. He actually got a good start, probably one of his best starts of the season. His pre-season starts hadn't always been where he would have wanted them. He got the start. He was running the pace. I think he was 5th or 6th, and then he went down, but he was going with that lead group. From there, it looked a bit of a struggle for him to get into his rhythm. He finished just outside the top 10. And second moto, the start wasn't there, although his riding was decent. He came through into the top 10, but a wee bit of a case of what could have been for Liam Everts. He was still 9th overall. So a top 10, despite a few problems, everything not going his way. But I feel like his riding was a wee bit better than that. He should have been possibly in around that 5th to 7th overall on his speed. So a wee bit unlucky, but overall the foundation was there for Liam Everts.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what to expect from Everts this weekend, to be totally honest with you. But 9th overall is pretty good start to the season, I would say. In the first moto, what I would say is when he crashed, I think he was 6th. And then when he picked it up, I think he was 14th possibly, and he ended up 12th. So it just goes to show how many guys in this class are running that same high speed. It's certainly not easy, and starts are going to be important. But like you said, if he hadn't made that first moto crash, we would have been higher up the overall for the day. So, but the finish 9th is dead on, I think, for Everts for the first race of the year. Again, he'll only improve as he gets stronger and adapts to the class. So decent start to the season, and it'll be interesting to see how he progresses.
One rider I think we were both talking about on Saturday a lot especially after the first moto was Maxime Gros. What a first moto performance by the young French rider. First EMX 250 race, and he was blowing a lot of minds out there with his speed and his calmness and his composure in that first moto to get 4th running the lead group. Never really looked rattled. He just looked like he felt he belonged up there, and he has a lot of talent to be able to do that in the first moto in an EMX 250 class.
Yeah, wow, just wow. He blew my mind in that first moto. He really did. It's been a while since a 15-year-old's got me that excited, to tell you the truth. He was very, very, very impressive. Very impressive. And he hasn't got a lot of experience, we need to remember. He's only ever raced one EMX125 race at Matterley Basin, and then that was his EMX250 debut. I know he's a lot of time to prepare on the 250, but practicing and racing are two completely different things, and he looks so comfortable at the front. He just took it on his stride. Very intelligent rider and very smooth. I can't wait to see how he does, and as he gets a bit stronger, I think fitness might be a bit of an issue. He seemed to get tired for the second half of the race, but still to battle and finish 4th in the first moto. A big up to him. Very, very, very impressed. And also speaking to him, he doesn't seem like a typical French guy. He's very friendly, and his English is already really good at 15. So living in Belgium as well, he's definitely got the mentality. And it's just a shame he went down in the second moto. The second moto, we'll just write that one off because I don't think that'll happen too often. He should be able to get good starts on that bike and avoid chaos. So I really can't wait to see how he improves over the course of the season. He's got so much potential, and I'm very, very impressed.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he does over the next 3 or 4 rounds, they're all going to be more sand based. So obviously he's French, and the French are known for their ability on hard pack, but how he does in the sand will be another indication of his ability to learn and develop, because he is living there now, but has he had enough time to up his game in the soft stuff?
Yeah, that's the one area where he just needs to improve this year, really. He doesn't need to set the world on fire in sand. He's still 15 and he's only had 2 EMX races in his career. So if he can get top 10 in sand, that's fantastic. Even if he's top 15, that's not the end of the world. It's just, for him, it's just all about improving in the sand. And then if he can continue to show that speed and hard pack, whenever he does figure the sand out, he'll be the complete rider then. So going to be very exciting to watch him develop.
I want to give the Brits a quick mention as well. They all rode really well. Tom Grimshaw was the leading British rider in 17th, but he was in the battle, both motos fighting tooth and nail. He definitely impressed me as far as the amount of concentration needed to run with those guys and in that pack. First moto especially, he rode really, really well. And he was in that sort of group that Everts was actually in once he went down. So Tom had a good pace going. Also, Jamie Carpenter rode very, very well as well. He had a very good second moto, running around top 15. And Ike Carter, toughish first race for him. He had been set in the British Championship a light. He maybe expected to do a wee bit better in terms of results, but I thought his actual riding was decent. He was in around the pace of Grimshaw and those guys, and he probably had around into the top 15 pace of the EMX250 class. So not maybe as good as he wanted in terms of results, but he still got a couple of points, and I felt his riding was good.
Yeah, just on Grimshaw, first of all, I'm pretty sure he's failed to qualify for some of these events before. So it looks like he's had a strong winter, putting in the work on his Chambers Husqvarna. They end up 17th overall. Like we keep saying, 5th to 20th, there's not a lot in them. So he could have quite easily been higher up. So I feel like it was a positive weekend for him. Carpenter, after winning his first overall at pro level at the MX Nationals, he came in with a lot of confidence, but going from sand to hard pack, again, he was in that group. He wasn't far off it, but 22nd overall, it's not too bad in that class because there's so many fast riders. What I would say on Carter is he hasn't got the EMX or GP experience of the other two. The other two have obviously rode a lot of GPs and EMX in the past, so that was his EMX 250 debut. So that can be quite mind-blowing and hard to deal with. So I was happy with the speed he showed in qualifying. Actually, I think that's one of his good areas, a fast qualifying lap. And if he can, that's a positive because it means it can help him get good gate positions. But the end of 24th overall isn't too bad, and it's something to build on looking ahead at when he does more rounds and as he gains the experience and learns these type of tracks, he'll only get better. And also he's a full privateer, so it's not bad going for a full privateer setup.
Yeah, against a lot of good bikes in that class as well. And for Carter, it's important. He's a young rider that people know in Britain, but a lot of European teams and team managers might not have heard of him, and if they have heard of him, probably haven't seen him in action. So for him to show a wee bit of raw promise there, I feel he did in Matterley Basin, and for his career, it's important he can get his name out there. And even if he can do some EMX 250 races again this year, even a good qualifying session or a good moto, or he gets in the points or a good start, and team managers know that he is currently a privateer, they might start thinking this guy's young. He seems to have raw talent, and we can give him a bike and give him experience and help him out maybe off the bike training and all that. Maybe settle in Belgium if he can do that, then he may give himself a platform to rise through the ranks in the EMX 250 and then the MX2 series going forward.
Exactly, that's what it's all about. It's all about getting your name out there, and there's going to be injuries. That's the sport. And when there's injuries, there's always opportunity for a fill-in ride. And I feel like if he can get himself out to do a few more EMX 250 races and show that raw speed he has, it won't be too long until somebody comes knocking on the door, because he's certainly certainly looks to be a talent, especially he's been very, very impressive in the British Championship. So if he can translate that speed outside the UK, it'll be interesting to watch heading into the rest of the season for sure.
Yeah, I think he's definitely one to keep an eye on this year, to see what he can do in Britain, and hopefully a few more EMX 250 races, because I think he does have talent, and I think he can do better than he did in Matterley Basin. But as you say, it's getting the experience and getting everything just right, so you know where you are and become comfortable in that environment to really show your potential.
Yeah, we'd just like to give a shout out to Florian Mayo actually. He's been racing the British Championship for RFX Power Homes Husqvarna, and it's been tough for him to adapt to the British Championship, but they end up 6th overall at Matterley Basin. I know it's a track he likes because he was on the podium there in the EMX125 class last year, but to go 6-12 for 8th overall I thought was very impressive. So big up to him, and also Lorenzo Corti, who's an Italian privateer. At times he struggled to show the speed he has in Italy in the EMX250 series. So for him to go 11th overall with 15.9, he's also a privateer setup, was also a good one. So big up to those two guys.
Yeah, and Florian Mayo is the sort of reverse example of Ike Carter. Carter knows Britain, that's where he's comfortable, and that's where he's fast. And Mayo, the British is all new to him, and Carter has a few times been quicker than him there, but you switch it around, put them in a European Championship, and Mayo has the experience of that series. He's comfortable there. He rode really well there, and Carter was still getting his feet wet and wasn't able to, I would say, get the results his talent and speed have, although he was able to get points, which is good in a deep class. But I think it just shows that when riders are comfortable and when they get starts and have confidence and are in familiar territory, they can really show their potential. And Mayo, I feel he has been good in the British Championship, but that EMX 250 class is deep and strong, and he rode really well in both motos.
Absolutely. I wasn't expecting him actually to be 8th overall, so he definitely did impress me. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he can show that speed at other type of tracks now, because Matterley, for whatever reason, he seems to just really gel at. He was very, very impressive there last year in the EMX125 class as well, and getting on the podium. So it'll be interesting to see if he can keep this level up. But I know Neil Prince is very, very happy with him, so he'll be looking for more of the same.
Right, let's talk some EMX125. This class, I think I maybe enjoyed watching it the most, just because everyone's so aggressive. They're laying these 125s over in the corners. They're straight on the gas. Their body language on the bike, they're just trying to get as much power out as they can. They're whipping and scrubbing on the jumps, and it's just really, really fun to watch them go. But Hakan Osterhagen, he looked completely in control at all times on the 125 Fantic. He looked like he just could put that bike wherever he wanted it, and obviously he was a fully deserving overall winner for me.
Absolutely. I mean, he's a very good example because a couple of years ago, in his rookie year in the class, he only qualified 4 times, and it just goes to show if you continue to work hard and show the mentality, and you have a bit of talent, you can get to the top. I mean, a red flag cost him the 1-1 on a perfect weekend, but you know what? He's never won at this level before. So to go 1-3 for the overall in his Fantic, very, very good start to the season. I think he's going to be very hard to beat for this title. He looks really, really good and very fast. So he has a great future ahead of him. He also rode a couple of the Italian championships at the start of the season on the 250 and showed good speed in it. So, and again, another young, exciting talent from Norway to keep your eyes on.
Exactly. I think we'll have to say that the second moto, Osterhagen was leading, crashed, and then worked his way back into the lead, but the race was red flagged and went back a couple of laps. So that was why he ended up in 3rd place there behind Zanchi and Bobby Bruce. So I think we should say he was actually leading whenever the race was red flagged. He'd worked his way back into the lead, which I thought was pretty impressive as well, because the first one he just cruised out front, but that one he made the mistake while leading and had to come through them again, and he was able to do it. Whatever the pace was ahead of him, he was able to match it and then exceed it and make the passes. So he ticked a lot of boxes there at the first round. Of course, it is only the first round, and other guys might get quicker, but he looked so good on that 125. That 125 Fantic, it was unbelievable. I actually, the guy who actually ended up in a very serious crash with Kai de Wolf was Zancy. Now he ended up with the second moto win, but for a minute or two, whenever he got landed on by de Wolf, he was knocked out and he was motionless on the track. So it was absolutely the right thing to do to put the red flag out, and there was a lot of concern for him. It was nice to see the fans give him a round of applause when he eventually was able to get up, but it was a very worrying time. He did get the win, but he wasn't able to go to the podium, understandably. At the time, I think he was third or fourth, so he wasn't actually leading when the crash occurred. But overall, he had been riding very well. He was fourth in the first moto. Again, he was battling in that top four. He had been leading until Bobby Bruce got him, and then Osterhagen got him. So he was in the mix. He ended up second overall once again, but because of that red flag and going back a couple of laps. But his speed was there, and I think everybody's just thankful he's relatively okay, because that crash was pretty scary.
Yeah, he's really impressive for me at the weekend. That was his EMX125 debut, because he's just stepping up from the 85, and some riders always need a year to fully adapt, but looks like he just needed one good winter, and he's already had a battle at the front with no problems, and he took it on the stride, looked comfortable while doing it. So very impressed by that. And yeah, the good news is he's escaped any serious injury, although with the concussion, it's hard to know. I would doubt that he'll be able to ride in Italy, but if he gets the clearance to ride, he'll probably be there, you would imagine. So let's wait on that one. But very, very impressive. The MJC Yamaha guys certainly knew what they were signing there. A very good debut. Can't ask for much better than a second overall. You know, he should be a championship contender if he can ride like that every week.
Yeah, so let's keep our fingers crossed he's able to ride in Italy. But it was definitely a scary crash for anyone that saw it and just saw him land there. So fingers crossed he's okay and he'll be able to race to his potential again for the rest of the season. Now, the star of the show was, for me, an EMX125 Bobby Bruce outside Osterhagen, because Bobby Bruce, he was absolutely flying, and to add to that, the fans were all over the fences cheering him on. It was just like a true British Grand Prix again before all this COVID stuff happened, with the fans very into it, cheering on their local riders. So Bobby Bruce provided a lot of excitement. That first moto, he didn't get a good start, but he would have passed somebody in a revolving door. He wasn't waiting around. He was just going for his passes, inside, outside, just moving. So second moto, he got the start, and he was going for it again, but at least this time he had the start. He was able to show he could run the pace at the front, and he actually was leading. He got past Sankey, he was leading, and then Osterhagen got him. Now, it was going to be difficult to know whether Bruce could have stayed there, but I think he was doing his best to follow Osterhagen's lines, and he certainly wasn't going to give up and settle for second. So Bruce was a massive star on Saturday for all the fans at Matterley Basin. Very impressive ride, very aggressive and very loose. I thought he was very loose on the bike. He looked really, really comfortable, and he didn't look overawed by anyone. He looked ready to go. And I was speaking to him after, and he feels racing the British Championship and MX2 has really helped him because of the aggression from those guys, and obviously they're on 250F. So coming back to the EMX125 Championship, I think he then didn't feel as overawed because of the British MX2 experience, where he's racing guys like Conrad Muse and Wilson Todd. So very, very impressive for Bobby Bruce. You can't rule this guy out of a title challenge. Of course, it was in the UK. He has to deliver these results in Europe, but he's actually been trained and guided by Brian Jorgensen, who has experience riding obviously in Europe, and he's also raced British Championships, and he sort of knows the drill of adapting to different countries and everything you need to do when you're a young rider to make it. So he has good guidance there as well for Bobby. So fingers crossed he can reproduce this form on the continent, and it looks like Britain might have a new star on their hands.
Yeah, he was really attacking the track and riding with a lot of flow. He was very, very impressive. I thought he might have only been a top 10 rider, but he impressed me not the weekend. 6'2" to go third overall and start the season with a podium in front of his home fans. He said he couldn't even hear his bike go on the fans were that crazy. So that'll live with him forever. That's great memories. From watching up in pit lane, the corner before the start straight, he was using a different line to anybody else in that 125 class. He was going out wide and squaring the corner off and cutting underneath riders for the next corner. And it was very, very impressive the way he was slicing himself up the field. So if he can ride with that aggressionness at other type of tracks and outside the UK, definitely one to watch. He's a big lad too, so he can put that bike and wrestle wherever he wants to go, really. So starts might just be the issue, but if he can get half decent starts, he's put himself in a nice situation now, third in the championship after the first round. And I think that'll do his confidence the world of good now, because he looked like he belonged at the front.
Yeah, on that line you were mentioning, nobody else seemed to really catch on to it. He was doing it lap after lap, but he also had the presence of mind that if he had passed somebody a few turns earlier, and they would maybe then try to go up the inside of him there because he had to leave the door open to square it off, then he would take the inside line. So he's very much aware of what's going on as well, and when it's applicable to go wide to try and set up a pass. But if he felt the pressure from somebody behind him, he was going tight as well and taking the more regular line. So his mind is very switched on within race conditions, and it wasn't that he didn't have any pressure or anything. The first moto he had to come through them, and the second moto he was running up front. So his in-race intelligence is definitely on point as well as his speed.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the GP riders that were there watching seen him use that line, because I noticed more of the GP guys were using it. So obviously they know what they're doing anyway, but seeing Bobby do it, you could tell it was a good opportunity to pass, and it was a nice flowing line as well. So yeah, he's definitely switched on in that regard, and I'm sure working with Brian Jorgensen, he can also give him those tips as well. He was a good, intelligent rider, so that looks like a good combination there. So hopefully he can keep delivering at this high level.
A guy who really impressed me, I want to talk about, is Sasha Conan. Probably have not said that name right. And also his brother was fast as well, but unfortunately he fell off and broke his collarbone. But those two Belgian brothers look like they could be the next rising stars for Belgium, who seem to continue to produce despite the tracks closing down there and less tracks for them to ride. But he was very, very good on the Bud Kawasaki, which was an aluminium frame on the 125. It looked absolutely superb in the pits, and Conan made it go superb on the track. He was very, very good. He's very young, but his race experience and his talent and everything shone through at Matterley Basin. Definitely, he's a star for the future, and one to keep an eye on this year, because he could get even better still.
Yeah, the Conan brothers were going. No, they were very, very impressive. I was impressed by their style and their technique, actually. They're very good, technically gifted riders. I feel like they've rode EMX125. I think Sasha's rode EMX125 before in the past and hasn't done too much, but obviously working with the Bud Kawasaki racing team, and they're good at spotting young talents and then helping them develop. So that's a good combination there, I think. And they're very small, actually, compared to the other top riders in that class. So as they get a bit stronger and start to grow a bit more, they definitely have a lot of potential. Very, very good to watch. So 5th overall, going 3-8 for Sasha was a very good, strong start to the season. I'm not sure if he actually would have even expected that. It's just a pity his brother broke his collarbone, because he also has a lot of style. They ride very similar, actually, and I think Lucas is even smaller, so he'll need a bit more time probably before he can run top 5. But both very impressive, I thought.
And it's great for Belgium. The Viago Gertz, the Liam Everts, and now the Conan brothers coming up. Say for a while it looked like where was the next elite Belgian level riders coming, but it looks like they're starting to produce a few again. So for Belgian motocross and Belgian destinations, the future is starting to look bright again.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I've heard of the Conan brothers for a while now, but on the EMX level, they haven't really produced. But it looks like this could be their year to really showcase the talent that they do have, because I know people in Belgium rate them highly. So hopefully this is the year they can put it all together and show those kind of results all season long, really. Coming from Belgium, you would think they'll be good in the sand as well, so that shouldn't be an issue. But then, of course, the EMX125 Championship have no sand races this year. So actually having all the races in hardpack, if they get that speed in hardpack dialed down, it could make them the complete riders in terms of being able to ride all the conditions needed.
Kai Korsmakers was fast as well. He was involved in that crash, of course, and in the second motor that resulted in the red flag. But bad start in the first one, he rode strong. And the second one, he was trying to go with Bruce and Osterhagen. He was trying to actually get past Ansi whenever the crash happened. It would have been interesting to see if he could have ran the speed there, because the first 10 minutes he wasn't in the mix for the win. Definitely a good day again. Sixth overall probably doesn't reflect the speed he had, but he was definitely riding well.
Yeah, I was speaking to Kai actually, and I can't believe how much he's grown since the last time I saw him. He's a proper man now. Like, he's very muscular and very tall. So that he'll probably lose a bit of drive coming out of the corners and stuff in the 125. So he's maybe at a disadvantage in that regard. And starts might also be an issue. Speaking to his team, they say the starts are good during the week, but when it gets to race day, it just doesn't work for him. So that might be the issue. But you know what? I don't think he needs to worry too much in terms of getting amazing results this year, because the past few years have been so difficult for him. It's just important that he stays fully fit this year, and then he can really showcase the potential and talent that he has. Like I say, whenever he rode at 65, nobody could get near him in the Netherlands. He was also good in the 85. Just getting, since putting his leg over the 125, the injury issues have come. So stay fit this year, learn as much as possible, and then every round at hardpack will help his hardpack skills, because in the past that's been his weak area. So yeah, hopefully he can just keep progressing. He's going to make his EMX250 debut at Oss, so that's going to be an interesting one, because he probably actually will suit the 250 more at the moment than the 125. But I still think it's good that he's racing the EMX125 class, because he hasn't had a full season in the class yet due to injuries.
Another rider to give mention to is Marc-Antoine Rossi, fourth overall, but a very, very strong second in the first moto. And a French rider, he clearly has a lot of talent again. So the French are still producing these top level riders coming through the youth ranks.
Yeah, that's a rider I didn't know an awful lot about coming into this weekend, but that first moto, he really impressed me. He came from way back, and I know a few guys crashed at the end to help him get up into second, but even still, speed wise, he was right there. And we don't know how far I would have came in the second moto because of the red flag, but fourth overall, very good start to the season. And now I know a lot more about him, and I think he's working with Seb Purcell, so a former GP winner. So that should help bring him on, and Seb will be trying to take him to the next level now. But
yeah,
a very good start to the season.
Saw Seb in the pit lane actually, so that would explain his presence there, looking after Rossi. A guy who I don't think this disappointment would be correct, but he was solid without being spectacular. I thought he might have been a wee bit faster in terms of raw speed. Was it Valerio Lata? What were your thoughts on him? Seventh overall, still a good day, but I thought maybe he'd have been on that speed of a Bobby Bruce. Okay, Korsmakers.
Yeah, absolutely. Coming into the season, Osterhagen and Lotto were my two favourites for the title, actually. But I know Lotto picked up an injury during the off-season, so I'm wondering how much that's affected him and affected his preparation. He sort of rode how he did last year, which is fine, but I thought he might have made a step, but he maybe hasn't made the step because of the injury issue he had. So it'll be interesting to see how he responds. I don't think he would have been too happy with seventh overall either, to tell you the truth, because he was doing better at the end of the last year. So it'll be interesting to see what another few weeks can do for him after Italy, because of course he's got Italy this weekend first. So he'll probably need a few weeks to get back up to full fitness and speed and race sharpness.
Yeah, he'll be one to keep an eye on to see if he can kind of up that level and into that top 5 group. Just before we wrap this up, Andy, is there anyone else you want to give a mention to, or who caught your eye, or you're a wee bit disappointed by?
Yeah, Luca Rufina impressed me with an 8th overall. He was fast at the International Italian Championship 125 class, but sometimes guys ride that at the start of the year and they come into EMX125 and get completely smoked because not everybody's there. But actually, he rode really well to go 14th, 5th, and 8th overall. He hasn't got an awful lot of EMX experience, and he's also a privateer. So I think he would have opened some eyes this weekend, especially with the 5th and the second moto. Another guy that impressed me was Kato Nickel on the WZ KTM, young German talent. he started the season well at Matterley Basin last year. I think he had a fourth in a moto. So to go 5:14 at the weekend there for ninth overall, solid start. Again, he's with a team that's very good at nature and young talent, so one to look out for. And Scott Smolders, solid with a 10th overall, 12.9, not bad. I expect a wee bit more maybe because I feel like he has got the talent to run in the top 5, but his starts weren't great, and I think he had a few crashes over the weekend. So if he can cut that out and get better starts, he should be up there. And then the last person I would like to give a shout out to would be Bailey Johnson, British rider, finished 20th overall. I feel like that's very, very good for a young British rider who's probably never raced at that level before. So the only way is up for him.
And 20th overall, it's like 17th, 16th, or 17th and 18th in the races. So he was actually even better than that. So yeah, he rode well, and he should be very pleased with himself of how well he rode on Saturday. I think that's everything, Andy. That's a wrap on EMX review of Matterley Basin. Again, if anyone wants to follow us on Spotify, on iTunes, please do. Get us also available on YouTube. So whatever your preference is, you can get the podcast there. Once again, thanks very much for Andy. Your opinions and knowledge on EMX is unparalleled. So thanks for coming on, and we'll see everyone or talk to everyone again after Majora in Italy, which should be a fantastic weekend's racing as well. So thanks everyone for listening. Thanks Andy, and all the best. See you later. Bye bye.
Thank you. See you soon, guys.